What do you mean we're short on eggs again? Merrick Kline stood in the middle of his office, jaw tight, phone pressed to his ear. For the third time that week, one of his 13 bakery locations had reported ingredient shortages. The Bakersfield shop, to be specific, store number 9. Third time in 2 weeks, Merrick, said Dana, the district manager. They're either messing up inventory or lying about their use. Merrick glanced at a spreadsheet on his desk. Sales were steady, but profits from Bakersfield had dipped. He rubbed the back of his neck. All right. I'll look into it myself. You? Dana sounded surprised. Yeah. I'm done with reports. I need to see what's actually happening there. He hung up. Merrick had inherited the bakery chain from his father 6 years ago. He'd expanded it, modernized some of the branding, and let managers run daily operations. But lately, he'd felt like he was leading from too far away. By Friday, he'd shaved his beard, dyed his hair darker, and wore plain clothes with a cheap name tag that read Cal, short for Calvin. He added thick-rimmed glasses and a slight limp in his walk. Nobody at the Bakersfield store had ever met him in person. Store 9 was one of the older locations tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. It had a small crew, 2 cashiers, 2 bakers, and a manager. He walked in just before opening. The manager, a tall guy in his 30s named Rick, gave him a once-over. You the new trainee? Yes, sir, Merrick said, putting on a nervous smile. All right, you'll shadow over at the register with Zara. She doesn't complain much. Merrick walked over and saw a short woman in her 50s behind the counter, already wiping down the touchscreen. Her apron was clean, shoes worn, and her gray-streaked black hair tied in a neat bun. She looked up and offered a warm smile. You must be Calvin. I'm Zara. Nice to meet you, he said. Their first customer walked in 2 minutes later. Zara greeted her like an old friend. Morning, Mrs. Langston. Got your sourdough ready? The woman smiled back. Zara, you spoil me. Zara rang her up fast, gave her a free mini muffin for her granddaughter, and kept the line moving. Merrick watched her work. Every move was calm, practiced. She didn't just do her job, she carried the whole front of the store. By noon, Merrick had noticed several things. The kitchen was running low on eggs. Again. Rick, the manager, spent most of his time in the office, sometimes scrolling on his phone. And Zara? She never stopped moving. At one point, Merrick tried asking Rick about the egg shortage. Talk to the bakers, Rick replied without looking up. They said the order was late again. Rick waved him off. Then they'll make do. Don't bother me with that stuff. Merrick blinked. Aren't you the manager? Rick stood up, walked over, and leaned in. Listen, Cal. You're a trainee. You do what you're told. You don't ask questions like that unless you want to clean bathrooms. Merrick didn't say anything back. He just nodded and walked away. Later that afternoon, Zara caught him staring at the register screen. You okay? She asked. Just trying to learn how it all works, he said. You've been here a long time? 14 years next month. He raised his eyebrows. Wow, that's a long time. Zara chuckled. Yeah, I've seen 4 managers come and go. Rick's the 5th. I just keep doing my job. You like it here? She hesitated. I like the customers. I like baking. I like working. But I don't like everything. Merrick leaned closer. Like what? Zara looked around, then whispered. Don't repeat this. But Rick's lazy. He cuts hours, keeps people scared of losing their jobs. I stay quiet, but I've seen good people leave because of him. Merrick nodded slowly. That's not right? She sighed and turned back to the counter as another customer walked in. At closing time, Merrick offered to help clean. Zara tried to wave him off. It's okay, I always close. You always close? 6 days a week. Sometimes 7 if someone calls out. Merrick frowned. That doesn't sound fair. She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. Fair doesn't always pay the rent. As she bent down to restock the pastry case, a paper slipped from her apron pocket. He bent to pick it up. It was a pay stub. He paused. Her hourly rate was barely above minimum wage. 14 years. 6-day weeks. He stared at the number again. $16 an hour. That's what Rick was paying a woman who practically kept the store running. His chest tightened. He felt sick. He folded the paper and handed it back to her. You dropped this. Thanks, she said softly. Merrick barely slept that night. Saturday morning, Merrick arrived just before 6. The air outside was cool and still, the streetlights still humming. The front windows of the bakery were dark, but inside he could see a faint glow coming from the kitchen. He stepped into the back entrance as Rick had told him to the day before. The kitchen smelled like warm butter and yeast. One of the bakers, a young man with a sleeve tattoo and earbuds in, was lifting trays of croissants from the proofing rack. He looked up and nodded once. You're early, he said, removing one bud. Wanted to see how things run in the morning. Merrick set down his backpack. The baker returned to his tray. Name's Devin. Careful about asking too many questions around here. Rick doesn't like it. Merrick didn't respond. He walked over to the prep table and watched Devin lay out another sheet of laminated dough. Where's the other baker? He asked. Devin scoffed. Called out. Again. Merrick raised an eyebrow. Third Saturday this month, Devin continued, brushing egg wash over the croissants. Rick won't hire a replacement. Says we're overstaffed. So guess who gets to do double today? Merrick offered to help, and Devin paused, surprised. All right, he said, handing over a bowl of flour. You ever scale dough? A little. Then weigh out 4 pounds. We're behind on cinnamon rolls. They worked in silence for a while. The kitchen was tight and poorly ventilated. The industrial fan above the ovens buzzed but didn't do much. By 7, Devin was drenched in sweat, and Merrick's shoulder ached from kneading. Rick strolled into the kitchen 10 minutes before opening. He grabbed a cup of coffee from the break table, took one sip, and nodded toward the racks. Everything out? Not yet, Devin said without looking up. Still waiting on the second batch. Rick sighed. Guess I'll have to tell customers we're out again. You wouldn't have to if we had help. Rick turned toward him. You want to run the hiring budget, Devin? Devin didn't answer. Rick looked at Merrick. You, go up front. You're with Zara again. Merrick washed his hands and headed to the front. The sun was rising outside, casting pale light through the windows. Zara was already setting out pastries, her movements fast but steady. Good morning, she said without looking up. Morning, he replied. She handed him a towel and gestured to the display case. Wipe down the inside glass. Don't leave streaks. They worked quietly. At 7:30, the first regulars came in. Then a few more. By 8, there was a steady line. Merrick took orders while Zara filled them, moving between trays with practiced speed. A middle-aged man in a blazer stepped forward. He looked annoyed. I called ahead for a dozen chocolate croissants, he said. You told me they'd be ready. Zara stepped in. I remember. We had a staff shortage this morning. They'll be out in 10 minutes. I don't have 10 minutes. I understand. Would you like a refund or I want what I ordered? Merrick watched her face. She didn't flinch. They're coming out of the oven now, she said. If you're willing to wait 5, I'll include a few extra. The man exhaled, glanced at his watch, and nodded. As soon as he sat down, Zara turned to Merrick. Go tell Devin. He's probably pulling them now. Merrick stepped into the kitchen and found Devin juggling trays, shaking cinnamon sugar over a new batch. Croissants. Bottom oven. Merrick grabbed an oven mitt and pulled the tray out. The pastries were golden, glossy, and steaming. He set them on the rack and returned to the front. Here, he said, handing them to Zara. She boxed them quickly, slipped in 2 extras, and walked them over personally. The man's expression softened as he took the box. Thanks, he said. Sorry about earlier. No problem. The next customer stepped up. By noon, the line had thinned. Merrick wiped down counters while Zara restocked milk in the fridge. Rick emerged from the back, holding a clipboard. Cal, take your break. Merrick looked over. I'm good. Not asking. I need you off the clock for 30 minutes. Zara glanced at him, then looked down. Merrick stepped outside and walked across the street to a bench near the bus stop. He sat, pulled out his phone, and opened the scheduling software his company used. Rick had reduced the store's labor hours by nearly 15% over the last 3 months, despite steady sales. He dug deeper. Zara's scheduled hours were consistent, but 2 other cashiers had dropped off completely. Their names were still in the system but marked inactive. He checked their termination records. No exit interviews. No HR notes. Just a single line, staffed out. He leaned back and stared at the sky. When he returned, Zara was alone behind the counter. A teenager in a hoodie stood in front of her, arms crossed. "I'm telling you, my card worked across the street." Zara's voice was calm. "I'm not saying it didn't. It's just not going through here. It's not my problem your machine's busted. You can try again or use another method. I want the manager." Rick came out a second later, sipping soda. "What's the issue?" "He's saying his card won't work," Zara said. The teen pointed at her. "She's acting like it's my fault." Rick scanned the card. It was declined again. "All right," he said, turning to the boy. "You need to leave." "Forget it," the teen muttered, storming out. Rick turned to Zara. "Next time, just handle it. I don't need to be dragged out here over a punk kid. He asked for you. Well, don't encourage that." As Rick walked away, Merrick stepped behind the counter again. Zara didn't say anything, but her jaw was tight. Later that day, as they were closing, Merrick helped her sweep. The silence felt heavier than usual. "Can I ask you something?" he said. She nodded. "Why don't you transfer to another location?" She leaned on the broom. "I don't drive. I live 2 blocks from here. Everywhere else is too far." He nodded slowly. "Plus," she added, "I've put in too many years here. Feels like I'd be starting over." "Have you ever talked to corporate? About your hours or pay?" She shook her head. "Rick controls the schedule. He says he passes on our complaints, but I've never heard back." That night, Merrick sat in his car with the engine off, staring at the darkened windows of the bakery. He opened the employee portal again and pulled up Rick's performance reviews. They were all self-submitted. No peer reviews. No customer feedback. He checked incident reports. One had been filed 8 months ago by a former cashier alleging verbal abuse, but it had been closed as unsubstantiated. He read the statement. The handwriting was careful, the words measured. She said he used to cut her hours if she talked too much to customers. That he told her to clock out 5 minutes early each shift, and once threatened to write her up for using the bathroom during a slow hour. There were no follow-ups. He stared at the screen, then tapped his contact list and called Dana. "Don't say anything," he said when she picked up. "Just listen. I'm pulling Rick. Effective tomorrow morning. I'll be in the store when it opens. Send someone from HR to Bakersfield by noon." Dana hesitated. "Understood." He hung up. Sunday morning, Merrick arrived early again. Zara was already there, unlocking the front. "Didn't expect to see you again," she said. He smiled faintly. "Got assigned 1 more day." Rick showed up 5 minutes late and walked in without a word. By 8, the store was moving. Customers came and went. Devin was back in the kitchen, looking exhausted but focused. Zara kept the line moving. Merrick handled the register. At 10:45, a black sedan pulled up. Dana stepped out, flanked by an HR rep holding a folder. Merrick pointed toward the back. "Rick's in the office." They went through. 5 minutes later, Rick came out, face pale. Dana followed. "Rick, you'll be escorted out today. Your final check will be mailed." Rick turned to Merrick, confusion flashing in his eyes. Zara stood frozen. Then Merrick stepped forward and pulled off his glasses. "I'm Merrick Kline. I own this company." Zara's hand flew to her mouth. "I came undercover because I needed to see what was really happening. And I've seen enough." Rick opened his mouth, but Dana cut in. "We'll contact you if we need anything further." Rick left without another word. Merrick turned toward Zara and Devin. "You've both been holding this place together. And starting today, everything changes." There was a long pause after Rick walked out. The automatic door hissed shut behind him and everything felt oddly still. The regular noise of the ovens and the low murmur of customers seemed to mute under the weight of what had just happened. Zara still hadn't moved. Merrick stepped around the counter and gently placed a hand on the edge of the register. I know that was sudden, but it had to happen. Zara's eyes blinked rapidly. I wasn't expecting any of this. How long have you been here? Since Friday, he said. I came because I stopped trusting the reports I was getting. I needed to see it myself. Devin stepped into the front, flour still dusting his apron. He glanced toward the door, then back at Merrick. He's really gone? Merrick nodded. HR's handling the exit process. I've asked Dana to stay on site today and oversee operations while I talk to both of you. Zara looked down at her hands, then quietly said, You're not here just to clean up Rick's mess, are you? No, Merrick said. I'm here to make sure the store and the people in it are treated right going forward. He turned to Devin. Take your break. You've been pushing through without one all morning. Devin hesitated. You sure it's okay? I'm absolutely sure, Merrick said. Go grab something and sit outside. You've earned it. As Devin left, Merrick motioned for Zara to follow him to the seating area near the front corner. It was quietest there, and the next rush wasn't expected for another hour. They sat across from each other, the hum of the fridge behind them. I want to talk about your role here, Merrick said. Not just what you do, but what you've done for years. Zara folded her hands in front of her. I'm not sure what to say. You've kept this place running. Not just with customers, but with standards. You've been holding the line while the person who was supposed to lead did the opposite. She looked away. I never wanted to be a problem. I just tried to do my job. You were never the problem, Merrick said. But you've been undervalued. Severely. She didn't respond right away, but her fingers tightened slightly. I reviewed your wages. Your pay hasn't changed in nearly 4 years. Even with statewide increases, your base stayed frozen. That's not just unacceptable, it's insulting. Zara finally met his eyes. I tried asking once. Rick said budgets were tight, and that if I pushed it, corporate might just cut hours instead. That's not how we operate, Merrick said firmly. Or at least, it's not how we're going to operate anymore. A customer approached the counter, and Zara instinctively started to rise, but Merrick held up a hand. Dana was already stepping behind the register with the HR rep handling the sale. You don't need to carry the store on your back anymore, he said. You shouldn't have had to in the first place. Zara exhaled, her shoulders lowering a fraction. What happens now? First, Merrick said, we're adjusting your pay to match your experience and contribution. You'll be moved to a senior staff tier with a retroactive increase to cover the last 6 months. We'll process it today. Zara blinked. Wait, retroactive? You earned it. And we're not stopping there. You're going to help us rebuild this location with better staffing and better systems. If you're willing, I'd like you to step into a training lead position. She went completely still. You want me to be a manager? No, Merrick said. I want you to do what you already do, set the tone, train new hires, and guide our standards. But without the burnout. You'll report directly to the new store manager once we hire someone qualified. And you'll have input in that hire. Zara stared at the floor for a long moment, as if trying to reconcile the words with the years of being ignored. Eventually she nodded. All right. Merrick stood. Thank you. I mean that. He left her to sit with the offer and walked back to the kitchen. Devin was returning from his break, holding a sandwich from the deli across the street. You good? Merrick asked. Devin nodded. Better than I've been in weeks. Place feels different already. Not just feels, it's going to be different, Merrick said. I'm making changes today. First, I'm approving a new kitchen hire full-time. We'll post it by tonight. Devin gave a short laugh. About time. You'll help train them. And I've got a vendor team reviewing our deliveries this week. We're going to figure out why your ingredients aren't arriving properly. If it's the supplier, we'll switch. If it's internal, I'll fix it. Devin leaned against the prep table. You're not just saying that? I'm standing here, aren't I? Devin nodded. Fair. Merrick looked over the kitchen. The floor was clean, but the equipment was outdated. He made a mental note to budget for new ovens and a second proofing rack. Back in the front, Dana had taken over register duties while the HR rep reviewed scheduling software. Zara returned to the counter, this time standing a little straighter. "Can we talk staffing?" she asked. "Of course. There's a girl named Lila," Zara said. "She used to work weekends. Rick cut her hours when she asked for a raise, then stopped scheduling her altogether. She's still in town. I think she'd come back." "Reach out to her," Merrick said. "If she's interested, we'll fast-track her rehiring." Zara nodded, already pulling out her phone. By early afternoon, Merrick called both Zara and Devin to the back office, the same room Rick had used as his personal lounge. Now it felt smaller, stripped of authority. "I'm going to be transparent with you," Merrick said, sitting across from them. "This isn't just about one bad manager. It's about a broken layer of oversight. That's on me." Devin crossed his arms. "What happens to the other stores?" "After this, I'm auditing all locations personally. Not undercover this time. And I'm forming a field review team made up of senior employees like you two to give feedback directly to corporate." Zara looked surprised. "You want us on that?" "I want people who actually understand the job on the ground," Merrick said. "Not just district managers reading reports." Devin leaned forward. "You really think the rest of the chain's in as bad shape?" "Maybe not all, but I stopped listening to the right people. That can't happen again." There was a knock on the door. Dana stepped in. "We've got a customer asking to speak with the owner. Apparently he watched you help yesterday." Merrick stood. "Let's go see him." Outside, an older man with a weathered denim jacket stood near the pastry display. "You're the guy who helped me yesterday, right?" he asked. Merrick nodded. "Yes. How can I help?" "Just wanted to say thank you." "That lady at the counter, Zara? She's been taking care of folks in this neighborhood since before my kids were born. She deserves the world." "She's getting more than thanks from now on," Merrick said. "But I appreciate you saying it." The man nodded once and left with his coffee. Zara, standing nearby, watched him go. "That's Mr. Evers. He's been coming in since we opened." "He's not the only one who notices what you do," Merrick said. By late afternoon, the bakery felt different. Not because of decorations or slogans, but because of who was being heard. Dana stayed behind to help adjust scheduling templates. The HR rep finalized the compensation changes, and Merrick called a company-wide leadership meeting for the following Thursday. Before leaving, he pulled Zara aside. "I'll be back in 2 weeks," he said, unannounced. "I'm not checking up, I'm checking in." She smiled. "I'll hold you to that." As Merrick stepped outside, the Bakersfield sun was dipping westward, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. He looked back once. The store buzzed with quiet energy. Not perfect, but honest. And finally on the path to something better. 2 weeks later, Merrick returned to the Bakersfield location just before sunrise, this time through the front door, wearing his usual clothes, no disguise, no name tag, no act. The air was cooler than before, and the sidewalks were still wet from an early morning street sweep. He paused outside the bakery's large window, watching the soft glow from inside. The place had a different rhythm now. Not faster, not louder, but more balanced. He stepped in quietly. Zara was already behind the counter, reorganizing the cold case with methodical care. Her gray cardigan covered her uniform and her glasses rested lower on her nose than usual. She looked over, saw him, and gave a small nod, not surprised, not startled, just ready. "You're early," she said. "Didn't expect you until later." "I said I'd be back," Merrick replied. "Didn't say when." She closed the fridge door, then motioned toward the espresso machine. "We've got a new blend in. Want a cup?" He stepped behind the counter without hesitation. "Only if you let me make it." She raised an eyebrow as he reached for the grinder. "You sure you remember how?" "I've had some practice," he said, adjusting the portafilter. "Though I probably still take too long." "We've got a few minutes," she said, leaning on the counter. The machine hissed to life, steam rising in tight spirals. Merrick handed her a finished cup a moment later. She took a sip, then nodded once. "Not bad," she said. "I'll take that as high praise." Devin walked in from the back, hoodie sleeves pushed up and apron already tied. He looked more rested. Still quiet, but lighter on his feet. "You're back," he said, tying his hair up into a quick knot. "Just checking in," Merrick said. "How's it going?" Devin leaned against the prep table. "We're still short one baker, but Lila's been helping on weekends. She came back." Merrick looked at Zara, who gave a small smile. "She didn't need convincing," she said. "Just needed to know someone would back her up this time." Merrick looked around. The pastry display was full. The register drawer was balanced and open. The counters were clean. Nothing flashy, just solid, dependable work. The kind that didn't attract attention until it stopped happening. He turned to Devin. "You've got input on the new baker?" "Interviewed 2. One didn't show. The other's got experience but needs knife work. I told Dana I'd train her if she's hired." "You're confident?" "I wouldn't offer if I wasn't." "Then she's in." Zara pulled a small notepad from her pocket and passed it to Merrick. "This is something I wanted to show you." He opened it. Inside were handwritten notes, clean rows of observations, customer patterns by hour, peak sales days, inventory inconsistencies flagged by receipt, and suggestions for how to improve flow during the morning rush. He flipped through it slowly. "You've been tracking this?" "For months. Thought it might be useful now that people are listening." He looked up. "It's more than useful. It's exactly what we need." He handed it back. "Let's pull a few ideas from this and try them next week. I'll have Dana help with scheduling windows." Zara tucked the notebook away. "I just want this place to run better than it was left." "It already is," he said. "But we're going to keep pushing anyway." The bell above the door chimed. A young woman in a delivery uniform stepped in, holding 2 crates. Zara waved her over. "Eggs and butter?" The woman nodded. "And the flour's coming this afternoon." Zara signed the invoice and handed it back. The crates were clean, sealed properly, and stacked neatly behind the counter. Merrick turned to Devin. "That one of the new suppliers?" "Yeah. Local co-op. Better quality, more consistent. A little more expensive, but worth it." "Good," Merrick said. "We'll absorb the margin." The kitchen buzzed to life again, light clatter from trays being loaded, timers beeping softly. The smell of cinnamon and yeast lifted into the air. Zara looked at Merrick. "We've had fewer customer complaints this past week, and sales are up slightly." He nodded. "It's not just the numbers. It's the consistency. That's what builds trust." She hesitated, then added, "Rick called Lila last week. Told her she should have stayed quiet if she wanted a future in food service." Merrick's face tightened. "She tell him anything?" She hung up and forwarded it to HR. "They're handling it." "Good. That behavior doesn't follow anyone back into our stores." He walked to the front windows and looked out at the steady stream of people approaching. Churchgoers, young couples, an older man with a walking stick. Some carried reusable coffee mugs, others had toddlers in tow. Different walks of life lining up for the same reason. Merrick turned back to Zara. "Ever think about helping train our new store leads across the region?" She tilted her head. "Like a traveling coach? More like a mentor." A dozen stores, and most of them don't have anyone who's been in the trenches as long as you. You'd visit each one, meet the staff, spend a day or 2 showing them what consistency looks like. "I don't drive," she reminded him. "I figured. That's why we'd cover your transport. You choose the dates. 1 location at a time. No pressure, no quotas." Zara considered it. "Let me think about it." "Of course." As she returned to the register, Merrick walked back to the kitchen. Devin was checking oven temps and adjusting a sheet of danishes. "You still planning on staying?" Merrick asked. Devin shrugged. "I wasn't. But things feel different now. And having a say in how this place runs. That's new. If you ever want to expand your role, say the word. We need more people like you shaping the future of this brand." "I'll think about it," Devin said. "For now, I like being in the kitchen. Then I'll make sure you've got the tools to keep doing it right." Merrick stepped out of the kitchen as a rush began to build. Zara moved with quiet efficiency, calling out customer names, bagging orders, double-checking receipts. Lila had arrived and was already prepping drinks with calm focus. Customers chatted in the seating area, some reading the paper, others tapping at their laptops. The bakery was busy, but not frantic. It felt lived in, respected. The kind of place people returned to not just for what it sold, but for how it made them feel. Dana arrived just before lunch, carrying a folder. She found Merrick by the corner table and sat down. Transfer requests from 2 employees at neighboring stores. Heard word about Bakersfield. They want to work here. Merrick opened the folder. Let's interview them. If they're a fit, we'll bring them in gradually. No overloading the current team. Understood, Dana said, then added, you did the right thing coming here. Merrick looked around the room. I should have done it sooner. He stood to leave, but paused at the door. Zara caught his eye and nodded once. Not out of obligation, but understanding. Outside, the sun was high now, casting sharp shadows across the sidewalk. Merrick walked slowly, passing other shops along the strip. A barber, a bookstore, a small dental office. Life flowing as usual. But back behind the bakery's windows, something had shifted, a subtle recalibration of what leadership meant. Not just policy or pay, but presence. Showing up, listening, taking responsibility. Merrick didn't plan to go undercover again. He didn't need to. Now he knew exactly where he had to be.